Very good morning, thank you for joining us. So have we seen another breach of MP's safety? This week, pro-Palestinian activists rallied outside the surgery of our very own Tory MP, Phillip Davies, in Shipley. He was, and the protesters there are urging that Phil supports the cause for a ceasefire in Gaza.
So is this putting MPs at risk, or is this part of the job? Well, Philip's in the studio with us. Philip, they can protest every week. Every Saturday in London, we've got these wretched people bringing the city grinding to a halt, but I defend their right to protest. Is it fair game outside your constituency office where your staff are trying to work and people are trying to come to see you with their issues?
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I did say to them that they could. I didn't care whether there was 10 of them protesting, 100,000, whether they were there every day, every week, every month. It wouldn't change my opinion on anything. I don't change my opinion based on a mob outside my office. So I don't mind that. If they want to do that, they're wasting the time, but they're perfectly entitled to do so. I think the bit that was slightly worrying from my perspective was that actually one of them had made an appointment to come and see me yesterday as a surgery appointment, saying that she wanted to talk to me about fly tipping.
Right.
And so I'd made an appointment to see her, and she came in, but then came in with 3 other people who sort of came in mob-handed, and they weren't wanting to talk about fly tipping at all. They wanted to talk about Palestine. And that is a slightly unnerving part of it, because obviously we make surgery appointments for people in good faith and all the rest of it. And obviously she'd sort of lied in... I mean, to be honest, if she'd said to me, I want to come and talk to you about Palestine, I'd be perfectly happy to talk to her about Palestine. She didn't say she wanted to, she didn't need to do that, but she did, and then came in mob-handed with other people trying to sort of video what was going on.
Really?
So I sort of kicked them out.
Did you kick them out, or did you have a conversation?
No, I had a conversation. Then I realised what they were, and I kicked them out. But I went outside to see the demonstrators, which was quite ironic, because they were chanting, "Phillip Davies, you can't hide." And I thought, well, I'm not hiding. I'm literally stood here. I think they'd rehearsed it. Not expecting me to go outside to see them. So I think they need to change their lines for new rehearsal. But look, I don't mind. There were some people I recognised there from the constituency. There were a couple there who were perfectly reasonable. I could have a reasonable conversation with, but there were some that were utterly unreasonable. But if they want to do that, so be it.
Do they make you think about a ceasefire, though, in a way that you might not if they weren't on your doorstep?
No, it doesn't change my opinion about anything at all, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, it's a really massive issue. These are the things that we think about all the time. I did make the point to them that they had all their placards up there. I didn't see one of them that was an anti-Hamas placard.
No, there never is.
And I'd have a bit more respect if they were equally armed with anti-Hamas placards, but there were none of them to be seen.
And if you raise that with them, what do they say?
Oh, I mean, I'm afraid the fact of the matter is you can't have a rational conversation with them. They're fanatics, and you can't have a sensible debate, and that's the sad part. That's the sad part.
Do you think they were even your constituents?
Well, the person who made the appointment clearly was, because she was on the electoral... I mean, we do check the electoral register to make sure they're real... And so, yes, not all of them, not all of them were, but, yes, some of them... I recognised a couple of them as Labour Party members who were there, so...
oh, really?
So I did notice they were sort of obviously sort of joining in the sort of...
What do you make of the fact now the UN, America abstained, Britain backed it for some form of unconditional ceasefire? I mean, can you just explain where we are now with the ceasefire in the United Nations?
Well, I mean, I'm completely opposed to forcing Israel into a ceasefire, because, in effect, I mean, Hamas don't want a ceasefire. They want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. In effect, a ceasefire is, in effect, asking Israel to unilaterally have a ceasefire to allow Hamas to rearm, regroup, to launch new attacks into Israel. That's completely unacceptable. We wouldn't allow that. If people had attacked us, we wouldn't be agreeing to that, and I don't see why we should allow...
Philip, but it is brutal, the shelling of people in Palestine, children now.
Bev, war's a terrible thing. War is a terrible thing. There's no war where you don't have civilian casualties. Unfortunately, what on earth are Israel expected to do when Hamas launched that attack on them and still wants to keep launching those attacks on them?
But it's disproportionate now, surely. That October the 7th was horrific, chilling, some of the most disturbing footage I've ever watched. But this now, months later, to still be bombarding innocent people trapped in Palestine feels disproportionate.
He does say he's going to go into Rafah, which might be too much for some people, because he says there's still a strong Hamas enclave in Rafah.
I don't know what people expect Israel to do. to be perfectly honest. Israel, it seems to be the only country in the world that gets attacked for being attacked. And I don't really... what would any other country in the world do?
But that's, I suppose, what do they want to do? Because it looks at the moment like they just want to obliterate all residents of Palestine.
No, I think you want to obliterate... The plan is to obliterate Hamas, isn't it?
Andrew Roberts, who's one of our leading historians, made an excellent speech in the House of Lords where he said even if you take Hamas's figures, the ratio of deaths between activists, military activists of Hamas and civilians is remarkably low given it's such a built-up area that Gaza is. I think all the evidence shows that Israel have been doing their best to try and target military activists and not civilians, but of course it's impossible to do that, particularly when Hamas use civilians and children as human shields in order to protect their military infrastructure. What I'd say is this is on Hamas, it's not on Israel.
And they haven't given up the hostages.
No, exactly.
Let's do a massive gear change if we can. Your wonderful wife, Esther McVey, is on the front page of several papers today. What's she up to? She's trying to fill in the potholes, Phil. Good for her.
She is. The government have given over £8 billion to local authorities out of scrapping HS2, where over £8 billion of that has been given to fill in the potholes. Esther's been getting frustrated that it hasn't been getting done, so she's now started a pothole tour. She started in Lee yesterday, and she got a helmet on and a high-vis jacket, and there she was. She was actually getting...
She's filling them herself.
She was literally getting stuck in filling them.
What did Mrs Thatcher say? If you want something done, you ask a woman.
Ask a woman,
exactly. So Esther's very determined about the pot. She's very exercised about this pothole situation.
And one last quick word. Is Nadine Dorries sexy at 66, Phillip Davies?
Well, each to their own, isn't it? And I'm sure to many people she is. But
what about to you?
Well, perhaps not to me. I'm very happy with Esther, and
I still admire another woman for being sexy. Yes, married.
Well, I do. I probably do, but it probably wouldn't be. Nadine Dorries probably wouldn't be at the top of my list, but I'm sure she's at the top of many people's list.
All right, thank you so much.
You may not surprised.
Surprisingly.